And second is we've started to get some more interesting statistics about the WordPress.org side of things. So historically, I've known a lot about WordPress.com, and we've been using that to drive some of the development, right? Because we can introduce features and test them or see how much something gets used. Or, for example, we were testing, it was something around comment moderation. And we started tracking every single time someone clicked approve or unapprove or delete or spam, just to see how people changed it when we changed the wording and stuff. But on .org, we can't do this, but we have started to follow the Mozilla model, which is, since we have an update system, you know, when you have a plugin that's out of date, it'll say, hey, there's a new version, click here to update it. Now what'll happen is we can gather some statistics and aggregate an anonymous from that and get some pretty cool stuff. So at Wordcamp, I talked about these, and it turns out we had a bug in the numbers. So at Wordcamp, I think I said there were about 1-point-something million WordPress.org blogs. Turns out the actual number is 5.6 million. It's a small bug. We did a recount, and we found that there's a lot of WordPress.org blogs out there, actually more than WordPress.com, which is kind of amazing. Part of the reason this number is larger than we thought is that this now includes WordPress MU. So it turns out that I would say it's about half and half. There's about 2-point-something million WordPress.org individual installs. And then there's another 2-point-something million blogs hosted on various MUs. MU, for those of you who don't know, is the multi-user version of WordPress, which is probably the worst name I've ever done in my life. Because, of course, WordPress can have as many users as you want. But so essentially, it's more like the multi-blog version. So it's what we use on WordPress.com to host lots and lots and lots of blogs. We release all that software and open source it so anyone can do that. In terms of people who are upgrading, 4.8 million of those are on secure versions. So that's pretty good news. So that means that now the vast majority of people are on versions of WordPress that have no remote exploits or anything like that. So we're getting better about getting people updated. And we're adding now many, many thousands of these blogs per day. How many of y'all are developers, like PHP developers? Okay, y'all are gonna like this. So anyone been frustrated about like PHP 5 not being available anywhere or anything like that? I actually wrote an entry about this, and I'm gonna have to eat some crow. I said, fast forward 3 more years and PHP 5 has been, from an adoption point of view, a complete flop. Most estimates place in the single-digit percentages, mostly gassed by marginal frameworks. I think I woke up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. But at the time I was frustrated, right? Because PHP 5 didn't really add any new features. It was actually slower when it first came out, and yet PHP 4 was being deprecated, and so we were getting a lot of pressure, and even competing projects saying we're going to be PHP 5 only, it's better, et cetera, et cetera. And just as the leader of the project, I couldn't imagine doing that simply because there were so many of our users still in PHP 4, we couldn't leave that many behind. Well, there's good news, and these numbers are different from actually one in San Francisco. So now looks about 79, almost 80% of blogs are on PHP 5. According to WordPress blogs that we can track. However, I think that this number might be a little high, simply because WordPress MU blogs could count 100,000 blogs on one host, right? Would be counted as 100,000 blogs. So doing some deduping and looking at our older numbers, I think the real number is closer to about 65%. So we got about 2/3 of folks on the latest version of PHP. And what does this mean for WordPress? Well, it means that when the PHP 4 falls below like in the 10 to 5% range, we're going to be able to start taking, maybe even break backwards compatibility and say, hey, we're going to be PHP 5 from now on. So perhaps clean up some of the code, make things faster, and start to take advantage of some PHP 5 features. And it's also, when we do that, all of the other PHP developers out there will have a very strong quiver in your arrow in your quiver for making an argument for being PHP 5 only, which now is sometimes tough. Other thing we've started to do is, I'm calling it intelligent tails. We're basically starting to get the intelligence from basically the free market of WordPress plugins.